What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is October 2nd, 2024, Wednesday that is. I forgot to put that in the beginning. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil for episode 306. You think after 306 episodes of doing this, I would get that right, but as is the BSC tradition, I fumble with my words all the time. I don't know why we have as many listeners as we do, but thank you to all of them out there for withstanding and putting yourselves through this blobbering mess that is me.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day that, like, you're the person that will call a wide receiver an outfielder at times, or not know how to say certain words, but at the same time, you know your facts really well. You know ridiculous stats up and down and teams and who's on teams and what is going on in every single league. So you might not get the words correct all the time, but when it comes to the important things that you need to talk about, you know what you're talking about.
I'm kind of like that with, like, sports, but especially like soccer, because all the sports I played soccer growing up, but it was always like recreational. It was never like competitive. That was always basketball and volleyball, which you need your arms for. Soccer, you need your legs for. And in my brain, I see what I want to do with the soccer ball at my feet. It's just I lack the skill to do it. And that's what I always say, like, whenever I mess up a move playing soccer, it's like, that's above my skill level. But that's not what was going on in my head. That's kind of what it is here. Like, in my brain, I have all the knowledge. It's just the computing translation machine that is my mouth does not allow the correct statements to be presented to the population. That is what is actually going on in my brain. What's going on in my brain is much worse than what is being said, but in my brain, it's all correct.
Your unified free agents are still an alliance out there.
Thank God that free agency is almost done. But if you want to partake in this fun tradition that we have of PK just butchering every word known to man, and we do still have a blooper reel that might never make air, but it might maker. It's actually better now that we're doing one take. I have less errors doing it this way. Like when we pre-did all this stuff with like the extreme edits, we're chopping stuff out, and then we learned not to do that. I had a lot more errors. That's where the wide receiver, outfielder, center fielder came from. There's like a 10-minute blooper reel out there somewhere. And it's not somewhere, it's on my computer. But if you want to join in on all this fun, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify. I don't think Google Podcast does anything anymore. Maybe they do. I think it's Stitcher. Stitcher is gone, I believe. YouTube, if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can check out wherever podcasts are available. You can check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can also check out our store on our link trees on all our social media sites, or at the top of the website by just hitting the word shop. It'll take you right to the store. Couldn't be easier. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for time breakdowns in the description of the show. Phil, a few times we've gotten messages, oh, we don't really care about what you have to start the show about. Like, I think somebody was bashing you about talking about your wedding, which happens like once in a lifetime. It's our show. We can talk about what we want. But that's why we put the breakdowns in the description of the show so you can skip around as you please. And the first one right here will be the Buffalo Bills. Whew, man. This team knows how to tell you don't have to watch the second half of a football game.
Yeah.
Good, bad,
still appreciate
ugly,
it.
Whatever it is, especially with these primetime games. Yeah, I remember I was in bed because I went to bed and I still had it on, at halftime. And I was leaning up against the wall, and I came to with Scott Van Pelt, maybe somebody, Channel 2. It's Channel 2 News because it was Sunday night. It was on. And I realized, oh, man, I didn't set my alarms. I fell asleep because this game was putrid. 35-10 loss to the Ravens. Nothing worked, Phil. Absolutely nothing worked. It was an ugly game. I don't even know where you want to start with this. There was pretty much no good. It was just all bad. Everything went wrong at the exact same time.
Yeah, I gave up on the game after the ridiculous play that resulted, and essentially, not going to say they would have won if it didn't happen, if they would have scored at that moment. I don't know if they still come back or anything, but that trick play absolutely ended the game and any hope they had of coming back, and that's pretty much when I gave up on the game. But we can start with the defense, I guess. I think this was the first game, and we've talked about this a lot, that their opening schedule was pretty easy, other than, to me, the Dolphins, when Tua was still out there. I was still surprised with what they were able to do with Hill and Waddle. But this game was one with a good offense, but not only a good offense, a very physical offense. And I think the Ravens were very well prepared for the backup linebackers of the Buffalo Bills and made them look very silly the entire game. To me, this game, a lot of it was won and lost in the trenches, and we've talked about how great the Bills have been on offensive line, defensive line for the first 3 games. That was what was helping them win games, and this one, it was brutal on both sides in the trenches. Josh Allen was running for his life most of the game, and on the other side, Lamar had all time in the world, and Henry was running through gigantic holes, and the linebackers couldn't really do anything to stop anybody. And the move Justice Hill put on Dorian Williams, there's that one little pivot and then just wide open in the end zone. Like, it just really exposed what the Bills are right now, which is a team that is injured. And I think the linebackers, I'm not saying if the linebackers were healthy, this game ends up in a victory, but I don't think it looks as lopsided or gross as it ended up being. I think Dorian Williams and Spector were very exposed in this game for being what they are, and it's nothing against them. Like, they are doing the best they can for their positions. I think Spector is better left in special teams, and Williams is better left as a rotational guy who's young and still has some time to learn and everything, but they're not Milano, they're not Bernard, they're not Johnson, they're not top tier linebackers in the NFL. And this game, I think, exposed them. And I think the biggest thing about that is them getting exposed to the rest of the NFL while the Bills are still injured.
Yeah, this was a game where you had to get out early on this team because we know who the Ravens are. They're not a passing team, yet they can pass the ball very well when Lamar Jackson is able to. I feel very bad for all the Mark Andrews fantasy football owners. But this was a game where you had to get out early to take away their top-notch running game. And you couldn't do it. And, I put a little blame on Sean McDermott's lap here because, for one, you go for it when it's 4th and 1 on your own 39 to opening drive. But then you don't go for it when it's 4th and 2 midfield. Then you also don't go for it when you're 4th and 1 on your own 39 again, but you're down 11. Like, his decision-making in this game was very, very confusing to me. And it's I'm not knocking him on his track record of it because in most situations, he's a very aggressive coach that will go for it on 4th down. We saw it in the beginning of the game. They went for it on 4th down in their own territory. It didn't make any sense why you wouldn't go for it on other times, especially the 4th and 1 when you're down. You have Josh Allen, just get behind him, push your way to a 1st down and continue the drive. But it was once Derrick Henry busts through that seam and they go up 7-0, he went untouched, and so many players just made fools of. Everybody made perfect blocks and bad routes to the tackle him. But it seemed like as soon as that happened, Buffalo was trying to play catch-up the rest of the game, and you can't play catch-up against a team like the Ravens. You have to get out ahead of them. And the linebackers and the safeties got exposed, like you were mentioning, and you can only blame them so much because there's injuries. And then the defensive line generated no pressure, and Von Miller is now suspended for 4 games, so that's one less. And he was looking really good this year so far. Couldn't stop Henry, couldn't stop Hill, couldn't stop Jackson. Guys were open on every play, it seemed like, on the defensive end, and you can only blame the defense so much because of how injured they are. But the defensive line was not injured whatsoever. No generation of no they didn't generate any pressure whatsoever on an offensive line that came in very injured. The offense looked gross. They got exposed as well, where nobody was getting open. This was a game where you would have liked to have a number 1 wide receiver that could take over. Didn't really happen. And it was The defense needs Bernard and Johnson back. Hopefully they're back sooner than later. It seems Bernard's a little bit further ahead than Johnson. But this offense, they did nothing to help that defense that was struggling in this game. And I don't know, Phil. It was a game that you almost want to throw in the trash can, but you almost can't. And again, they went like 43 straight games without getting the doors blown off. And last time they did that, it was Indy with Jonathan Taylor running for like 5 touchdowns.
I was there.
You were there for them, but it's a game that exposed a few weaknesses that I think the first 3 weeks didn't. I think we got a little bit too comfortable after the first 3 games, ignoring some of the glaring issues that could arise pending who you're facing, and hopefully they see those things and they iron them out before Houston on Sunday at 1:00.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were complaining about this loss and everything, and the big thing, the first 3 wins are great, but like you just said, they don't teach you anything about this team. You blew teams out that realistically, should you have? I don't know, probably not. I mean, no one expected you to, but you don't learn from your blowout wins. They're so easy. Your second, the fourth quarter, you got the backups in, those games don't teach you anything about your team. They don't teach you about the weaknesses. They don't teach you about, where your team needs to grow. A game like this, while it was ugly and depressing a little bit because you thought, maybe the Bills are a top-tier team and, the Ravens just kind of punched them in the mouth a little bit, but these are the games that you learn from. They can go back and look at this film and actually learn from a game like this. You don't learn from a blowout win against Jacksonville. It just doesn't teach you anything for this team to actually grow and move forward. And I mean, headed into this season, this was supposed to be a reset year. It's supposed to be a year where if a lot of people still have them pick the win of the East, which is another one of my points today, that the East still is wide open and the Bills realistically have every shot in the world of taking it. That Jets game coming up is going to be huge, but I mean, Miami looks awful. The Jets just lost 10-9 to Denver, and Patriots are what they are right now. So the East is still very winnable, but I mean, this kind of game teaches you a lot about this team, and it teaches you a lot about the offense, the defense, everything that they need to do. So I think it's a great learning experience for a team that kind of skated through. I know they were down 17-3 to the Cardinals, but outside of that, they pretty much skated through these first 3 games. I think they almost needed a game like this to bring you back a little bit to reality and in order to grow and make this team better moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the standings right now, and like I said, I'm not overreacting after one loss. They're sitting at 3-1. If you would have told me 4 games through this season they'd be 3-1, I'd be happy. But it's the way they lost that's the issue there. They've got issues in the wide receiver room, which we already knew. They got issues in the linebacker room, which we already knew because of all the injuries. They got issues in the safety room. We already knew that. This was more of an example. I guess the whole month of September is more of an example of what this team is probably going to look like, where they might have some stinkers. This is not the team, and I think it was WGR, I think it was Jeremy White said this. This is not the team that went 43 straight games without having a blowout loss. This is a different regime of a team where you're still in your transitional year, and next year you'll have all that money. But, the East is still wide open. Jets are, they have always played Buffalo very difficult. But like you said, this game versus the Jets in 2 weeks is very, very important. But Patriots, gross. Miami, no quarterback, gross. Steelers, still gross. Baltimore Ravens scare you if they can get ahead. The Browns and the Bengals, gross. Texans look legit. Colts, they just lost their wide receiver. Titans and Jaguars, gross and grosser. Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, all 2-2, gross, gross, gross. The Chiefs are 4-0, and they're gross. The AFC is just filled with gross teams. I don't think there's a top dog in it whatsoever, but it's wide open. If the Bills address the issues that were glaring here, the AFC is wide open for them to take. And this can still be what the question I asked last week was, does this feel like a different team? And we both said, yes, this is still an example that this team can figure it out and move forward. So I don't know if you have anything else or if we want to move forward to our next segment, but...
No, I mean, I do think this is the kind of game where a lot of people are like, oh, you don't need Diggs or anything. And I mean, this is, like you said earlier, this is the kind of game that you pretty much, I mean, how many times on 3rd and short did they just not know what to do or who to go to? And again, Josh Allen's running for his life. Like they don't have that go-to guy right now that can get a 3rd and short, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. They don't have that. I'm going to this guy. He's going to make it. We're going to pick it up and we can move on. You could see very badly that they did not have that kind of player in this game. I don't know if Kincaid was kind of supposed to be that guy and he was being blanketed by the Ravens because they know he's kind of that guy. I'm not sure. But you could tell this was the kind of game where you needed that kind of player to step up, give you that separation, let Allen find him, and they just didn't have it.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the Bills versus Houston game. 1 o'clock Sunday, Phil.
Yes. Yay. Finally. We did it.
Finally get it. Return of Stephon Diggs. So it'll be a fun game to watch Sunday, 1 o'clock. We'll review that game on the next show. But, Phil, Buffalo Sabres, that's why I kind of rearranged all the jerseys in the room. Again, I'm moving. That's why this room looks a little empty. I don't know why the TV is not working. I couldn't get it to work. But Sabres, right there. Season starts on Friday. First game's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Hopefully you're using a couple hours sick Friday so you can watch them play overseas. But it is bold prediction time. This is another year where we're going to be giving each 3 bold predictions on the Buffalo Sabres. I'm going to go first. I always let Phil go first. I'm going first here. Buffalo Sabres will finish this year in the top 8 of the power play. And yes, this is bold because guess what? Last year they finished 28th at 16.6%. The top dog was Tampa Bay at 28.6. So, yeah, a massive gap there. Florida was 8th at 23.5. So that's a bit of a buffer where you're looking for. Year before last year, the team was 9th at 23.4.1% behind 8th place. With Lindy's style and the positive regression that has to happen. It has to happen. I think they can get back towards the top of the league if they remain healthy, if the players that took a step back last year if everything regresses back to the mean, I think this team can be a top 8 on the power play. And with, like I said, with Lindy's style, I do believe that this could be a top 8 on the power play type of team.
Do we know who the official person is this year for the power play coach or
no, but
designer?
I mean, I don't, but at least it's not who was it last year?
Was it Ellis?
Ellis, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
was thinking Adam Mayer for some reason. I was like, it's not Adam Mayer. Yeah, Matt Ellis is not being on the bench. Thank God, because that power play, horrible. I know they were injured, but 28th, man, it was disgusting. It was, okay, feed it over to Tage Thompson with the one-timer. Hopefully it goes in. If not, we have nothing else to do.
But, yeah, I mean, even to go from 9th to 28th. I know the whole team on offense regressed, but, I mean, should have been somewhere in, maybe the 21st, 20th, somewhere in there. I mean, still dropping 11 positions is a lot. 28th it's gross. We'll see. That's an interesting one. I mean, they were so bad last year at it. You'd think and you'd hope that it would be better. If this team wants to go anywhere, it needs to be better. It was one of their biggest issues last year just for scoring and getting points and winning games was the power play being so atrocious. So if they want to be decent, that needs to improve. I like it. I am going to start with the bottom 4th line is going to score more goals this year than last year's team. Now, this team that they brought in is not really a goal-scoring crew. They didn't bring in a lot of goal scorers. It's not really what the 4th line's for, what they're supposed to do. This team was brought in to hit and be nasty and physical, but they really don't have a high bar to add a little bit of scoring depth for the Buffalo Sabres. Malenstein last year, this is my assumption of the 4th line, he only had 6 goals last year. Krebs had a big old 4, so right there you're looking at +2, not bad. Lafferty last year had 13 goals. Greenway had 10, so we're still positive. And Kubel last year, he only had 6, but Gergensons only had 8. So really not a long ways to go if they can kind of repeat what they did last year or even be a little bit better. If each one of them can be closer to 10 goals, I think it'd be really good to get the depth scoring for the Sabres going a little bit. I know the 4th line, again, it's not what they're there for, but whenever you can get a goal from your 4th line, it is huge for the team because that's not what they're there for. So low bar set by the team last year, but still the players they brought in are not meant to be goal scorers, so it'll still be a little bit of a struggle, but something I think they can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a lot of dirty goals. I think a lot of them are going to be getting to the net, second chances right out in front. That's where you're
throw it at the net,
be
sprint in there, truck someone over, and bury.
That's where you need to be to get those goals. I do like that one, and I do think it's going to hit. My second one, UPL will continue to prove me wrong and make me look like an idiot more and more for wanting to ship him out the door for anything last year. He'll be inside the top 8 in both save percentage and goals against average, and the team itself will be inside the top 10 in goals allowed. I believe he's going to be playing 50 to 55 games. I believe he's going to be the go-to guy between the pipes. I believe Levi will start in Rochester and get the minutes there and all the time. And as much time as he can down there rather than just sitting behind UPL. It does nothing for his development. But for the back-to-backs, for the West Coast trips, I think he will be the guy. So I really think Reimer is more of that third guy, but he's going to be there for the team's backup. So he's the 2, but I think he's really the 3. Last year, the team was tied for 11th in goals against average at 2.96. Top 10 was 2.88. UPL was 9th in goals against average at 2.57. Top 8 was 2.53. He was 16th in save percentage at 9.10. 8th was 9.15. With a better structure and health in front of him, plus an improved defense, those numbers could improve. He's just 25 years old. This should be the time you see prime time UPL, now that he has more experience and a better team in front of him. My only hope, and this has been my hope for the last year and a half, that last year was not the outlier season compared to what we have seen from UPL and the career he has had up until last year. So I'm putting all my faith in UPL. Once again, you can continue to prove me wrong, or you can continue to prove me wrong with my bold prediction here. So either way, I'm going to be the loser with the UPL bold prediction and this one.
Yeah, I was a little sad that you stole the goalie bold prediction. When I saw it, I was like, I always like going for the goalie, but I like it. I hope it happens. I don't know. It's a huge, obviously he just got paid. It's not, insane money. I think he got paid a good amount, but at the same time, it's still kind of a prove it good team deal. But at the same time, for him, this is his opportunity, especially while Levi is still in the AHL and still developing. This is his time to say, I'm here. This is my team. I've been here. Like, this is my year, and he needs to grab it, take it, and run with it. Like, this is his big season that it seems like they are saying, you are the one. Like, you're the 1A of this team. You proved it last year. This is his chance to really be the starting goalie for the Buffalo Sabres before Levi. Like, if he falters at all, Levi's going to be pushing real hard, and the team's going to be pushing him real hard to get up and see what Levi can do. And I think Levi's already proven what he can do in a very small sample size. So, I think UPL, it's going to be a big year for him. It is. It's either now or never. I know, again, they just signed him, but at the same time, it's a trade-friendly contract as well if something happens this year and they really want Levi to be the future if UPL doesn't turn out to be quite what they want. But I do think this will be his year, and I think he's finally healthy, which is a big thing with him, which we haven't really seen in a long time. Like you said, the defense is healthy. If Samuelson could finally play a whole season, that'd be great. It'd be really appreciated because he's a fantastic defender and now has an A on the sweater, and maybe the A will help him be a little healthier.
Phil, what's your second? Oh, you got it.
I got it. My second one is that Quinn finally has his breakout season. The Sabres are, once again, I don't like it, but they are once again banking on these young players to explode and improve and just be the guys when realistically they haven't proven it. And this is nothing against Quinn or his talent or anything. He's been unhealthy so far to start his career. He hasn't really had a good shot. And it's a bold prediction because he just really hasn't had the chance to prove it. But at the same time, the Sabres are asking a lot of him. They're asking a lot of Benson. And that is part of why it's going to be tough, I think, for Quinn to break out on the negative side of things. He's with Cousins, who had a really bad year, had a good summer, but still coming off a very poor year. Benson, while he looked good, is still really young and needs his own breakout season this season in order for a player like Quinn, who's likely to be on the line with those two, to have his own breakout. So he had 19 points in just 27 games. He looks good. He looks like a player that if he's healthy, he can break out. I think you're kind of going to see what Peterka, his breakout last year. I think Quinn can kind of follow that path and be a 60-plus point player if everything goes according to plan. But again, you're asking Cousins to bounce back on that same line. You're asking Benson to take that step forward and have his own little breakout for his young career. So I think there are some things stacked against him, but at the same time, I think his talent is absolutely there, and he should be a breakout candidate and one that the Sabres are desperately in need of for him to break out and be that guy that they drafted.
So I think my next bold prediction and my final one here will kind of prove I'm in the camp with you. You know I love my point tiers, and I did this
really
with the Buffalo Bandits last offseason as well, so I'm going to carry this over to the Buffalo Sabres, and I think a lot of these are bold based on what happened last year. A team will have one player over 80 points. That will be Tage Thompson. Last year he had 56. Add 24 points to that. 3 players over 70 points. That will be Peterka, Quinn, and Tuck. Peterka had 50 points last year. Tuck had 59, and Quinn just had 19, but he only played in 27 games. 2 players will be over 60, which will be Cousins and Dahlin. Cousins last year, 47 points. Dahlin came in at 59. And then 3 players will be over 40 points. Power, Benson, and Byram. Power had 33 last year. Byram had 9 in 18 games with the Sabres. And Benson had 30. So if all these pan out, I do think the Buffalo Sabres can be a playoff team. I do not believe them. I do not believe that they will be a top 5 East Coast team, but I do believe that they will be a 6, 7, 8 type of seed in the playoffs. And, that's all we're looking for is just break the drought. We've been hoping that since this started and well before this podcast started. Just make the playoffs, man. That's really all we need. Phil, what's your final bold prediction?
Yeah, my final bold prediction is that the Sabres will make the playoffs.
There it is. I was trying to tease it, not knowing what your third bold prediction was, but there it is.
There it is. So if all of our bold predictions come true, then the Sabres realistically should pretty much. Yeah, I mean, if they have a top 8 goalie, a great fourth line that can check but also put the puck in the net, and a pretty solid offense, and a great power play. Yeah, they should be well on their way to a Stanley Cup just this season. I do think they've done a lot of correct things in the path to finally making playoffs again, and I think if you take a step back from being a fan that has seen this team falter for so long, and I still refuse to give any hope to this season until we are well in the season and they've proven that they can be a great team. But if you go back to 2 years ago when they were a top 10 offense, you go back to last year when, even though I don't think the defense was great, you had the goalie finally pan out and really start to come into his own and look really great. If you put it all together with a new coach that can actually yell at them and maybe have some semblance of a tough practice, it seems like, especially with the guys they brought in again, that fourth line, it's going to be a much tougher team to play against. I know it seems so weird to be putting so much emphasis on fourth line and third line players, but the Sabres have been rolling out the same fourth line and third line for years, and nobody cared about them. They didn't do anything. Nobody was scared of them. They were just a very blah players that you threw on the ice to essentially eat minutes. And now they have players that will go out there and sprint and hit and be nasty and aggressive and exciting. And it should be, in theory, on paper, other than not getting the top 6 forward we wanted and still kind of banking on your offense to re-find what it did 2 years ago and a lot of these young guys to pick it up, which I think is a risky bet, which we saw not pay off at all last year. I think that's the biggest kind of red flag about this team, but the rest of it on paper looks like it should be a playoff team with Lindy back behind the bench. Everything points to this team being just much better. I mean, they really should be a much better team. And then even though we pick on their season a lot last year because it was gross, they really weren't that far off from playoffs, even though it was just a really disgusting season. But UPL made it so that they were semi in contention with the amount of shutouts, and even, what was it? They went, I don't even remember what it was, like, was it 9-7 when he had like a 1 goal against average? They still couldn't score it out and win, but I don't know. This team looks like it should, in theory, make playoffs, but it's bold because they have yet to do it in a very, 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 very long time.
So that will conclude this segment of the Buffalo Sabres. Our bold predictions for this season. Let's hope they pan out better than last year's. I think the closest one we really came to was J.J. Peterka, 30 goals. He finished with 28. So on our next show, we'll have some real hockey to talk about as they face the New Jersey Devils overseas on Friday and Saturday. Before we dive into our final segment of this show, let's talk about our sponsor, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of ciders, sours, seltzers, malt beverages, and beers.
So you don't even have to get your calendar out this week because they got something every day. Wednesday, they got weekly trivia at 7:30. Thursday, weekly karaoke at 7 p.m. Friday, though, Phil, you and I love darts. It is free dart night, starts at 3 p.m., goes until they close at midnight. Blue Light and Coors Light specials all night long. Darts are on them. Swing by and play some free darts. Saturday, live music with Tommy Noeson, 7 p.m. They love their live music, and I love it too. So, it's always somebody new coming out there, and then they have some repeat people as well. Then Sunday, it's the 1 o'clock game, Phil. Thank God. Bills-Texans watch party, 1 p.m. Player of the game jersey. Wear the announced player's jersey. Get a free gift. And halftime, they give away a jersey every single Bills game. I think it was Dalton Kincaid that they gave away last one Sunday night. It was either him or Coleman. I can't remember. They did a vote, and I can't remember who it was. It was Coleman or Kincaid. So, yeah, legit jerseys. So head out to Tap That Tap Room for the Bills watch party one of these days. I'm going to be able to make it down there, maybe this one, because it is the 1 o'clock game. But for their Facebook page, you can find all their posted events and check out what's on tap and what's on deck at tapthattaproom.com. Phil, the World's concluded. One heck of a tournament, and congratulations to the Haudenosaunee and specifically to Okananakoke for completing and finishing off with the bronze. USA came in second, so they get the silver. So congratulations to Zach Belter and Dylan Robinson of the Buffalo Bandits for taking home silver. And then Canada, once again, I think they've won 6 straight, winning another world championship. Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, Steve Perillo, and Ian McKay. It's been a heck of a few years for Dane Smith. He got the Mann Cup this year, got the NLL Championship, got married, and now got the Worlds. It's man, remember a couple years ago where he was just coming up short in the championship? Man, the dude's a winner at this point. It's unbelievable what kind of last 6 months he's had, let alone last 2 years. It's unbelievable. Congratulations to Utica, unbelievable tournament. Can't wait to have this tournament back again, but it's just more eyes on the sport, which is fantastic and what is desperately needed, especially with the summer of 2028 coming up very, very quickly with the Olympics.
Will the next Worlds coincide with the same year as the Olympics?
That'll
be interesting.
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't looked that far ahead. I'm moving. I don't think you understand. I'm moving. So there's a lot of stuff outside.
We'll talk about it in 2028.
A lot of stuff outside of this podcast. It's happening, Phil.
But yeah, congratulations to all of them. Byrne also championship, marriage. He's doing all the things as well. It's got to be weird being on the opposite team when your teammates. And I know once they say go and you're playing the game, like I feel like it gets really serious and competitive. But still, to win a championship with Belter and Robinson and Byrne and Smith and Priolo, to have them all win a championship together on the same team not that long ago, and then have to go fight each other in a championship type setting. It's got to be Very strange, because I assume they're all pretty good friends for the most part, and then you got to go, especially when it's offense, literally offense versus defense. Like you're on the field at the same time, literally guarding each other. It's got to be a little bit strange to try to like ramp up that intensity at the same time, knowing your Bandit season's around the corner. You're like, all right, well, I don't want to hurt this guy. He's still very important to my team in just a few months. So I'll give him a light nudge instead of a slash or anything. It's got to be weird, but congratulations to everyone. Awesome tournament, and I think it's the first time USA has won silver as well. So still a big move, and Canada just continues its ridiculous dominance of the sport.
Yeah, I mean, USA is definitely making grounds in the box game, so very excited for them and see what is next for the Worlds. I'm very excited for it. But for the month of October now, Phil, we're going to be breaking down what happened this offseason in the NLL. It's a bit different than, I guess it's not different than last year, but it's different than in years past because the Buffalo Bandits will be playing every team once again this season. We went over the schedule, so now it's less about, and including last year, so I don't know why I'm just talking about just this year, but it's similar to what we did last year, where it's, hey, you're going to be facing every single team. It's not East and West anymore, where you can only have to focus on like 6 teams and then occasional 2 teams from the West. Every team is going to be facing the Buffalo Bandits, so you're going to have to know all these players, all these tendencies, what happened here, who signed with where. And it's been a very condensed offseason, I would say. Free agency got pushed off a month, and then you had the draft, and then you had a dispersal draft. So everything happened very rapidly. So there might be a few things that have gone missing. And for the month of October, the next 4 Wednesdays, we're just going to be reviewing 3 teams at a time. I think next week's is 4, but the rest of them are going to be 3 teams at a time, talking about, hey, what moves did they make this offseason? What does this team look like right now as this team stands right now? But we'll start with Albany. We're going to go right in alphabetical order, so you can do the math. Albany's first, one of the most active teams in the trade market, and that started right off the bat. They shipped out Justin Getty to Las Vegas. They shipped out Nathan Grennan to Ottawa. Anthony Jochum to Rochester. You brought in Eric Fennell from Halifax. You traded the 13th overall pick in the dispersal draft for goalie Will Johnston, so he replaces Justin Getty. You brought back a lot of players, but I think the number you were able to sign Doug Jamieson for 3 years, Joe Nardella for 3 years. Both of them are RFAs. Patrick Cossack for 2 years, Travis Longbow for 2. And then you brought in rookies like Dyson Williams for 2 years. So you're locking up these young players for long-term deals that's going to be able to keep these guys around. You're looking at Ty Kurtz, who's got 1 year left, but he's going to have his rights remaining with Albany. Same with Alex Simmons. So this young team that is filled with studs are going to continue to grow together. And that's why I've been saying, like, hey, maybe not Toronto anymore. Maybe it's not San Diego anymore. Maybe it's the Albany Firewolves that you're really going to have to keep a strong eye on because, they just made the finals last year. They weren't expected to do this. I picked them for 14th or 15th in the to finish the year out. But this team looks legit. If they're able to continue and keep these young guys around for years to come, this team could be absolutely filthy. They kind of look like the Buffalo Bandits did before they finally broke through.
Yeah, this team's very, very scary. We talked about it a lot last year, and as we got closer, obviously they made the finals, and I mean, yes, the Bandits ended up doing quite well against them in the finals, but they did not do well against the regular season, and even the finals was a bit closer than you would have appreciated for such a young team that was ahead of schedule. And that was the biggest thing with this team, is that they were so far ahead of schedule. So what does this team look like when they are now on schedule instead of ahead of it? I think the big thing with them, other than Dyson Williams coming in, that's going to be massive. And for such a young team with all this speed, all this talent, they just added another speedy, talented, extremely good forward who, has the comparisons of the Jeff Teats of the world, who just took the MVP for the Worlds and looks out of his mind as well. So when you're getting those kind of comparisons and you're adding it to a team that already went to the finals, he's going to be very, very scary. The big thing is how the NLL will adjust to this team. Now you have a full year with a lot of these rookies that, you didn't know their tendencies. You didn't know what this offense was going to look like. You didn't know what this defense was going to look like. And how many times do we say that the offense and defense don't play like other NLL teams. Like everyone kept saying, like, oh, they play defense in a different style, they play offense in a different style. And now teams have had that much longer to look at this tape, look at what this team does, and see how they can adjust their own offenses and defenses to this team. So I think it's going to be a very interesting battle of the teams this year of just how can Albany adapt to teams adapting to them, and how can the NLL adapt to what ended up being a very, very surprising, extremely good Albany team. But the biggest thing is they have their goalie, they have a very young offense, and they look really, really good. So they're going to be annoying, pesky, and scary.
Yeah, I mean, even their offense is separated really well. Ty Kurtz is a righty, Travis Longboat righty, Alex Simmons a righty. Then you got Marshall Paulus, Ethan Walker, and Dyson Williams as the lefties. You brought in Eric Fennell, who's a lefty. Sam Firth is like your fifth lefty. It's disgusting, and they're all first-round picks. Kurtz is a first-round pick. Simmons, Paulus, Walker, Williams, they're all first-round picks and early in the first round. Then you're looking at the defense. You know, Patrick Cossacks is an underrated player. He's going to be up there in the names of players to keep an eye on. Their oldest players, like 30 and 31 years old, with Watkinson and Nardella. You were able to retain Nardella, like I mentioned. Then you were able to lock up Doug Jameson for 3 years. So really, their only UFA that's still sitting out there is Leo Storos. And if you're able to bring him back for a little bit more nastiness on the back end, you got John Wagner for the whole year. This defense looks legit as well. So this is a team to keep an eye on. And it's hard not to keep an eye on them after they made the NLL Finals. But like you mentioned right off the bat, last year was not supposed to be their year. This was supposed to be the year that they make their jump. So what does this team look like when you add a Doug Jameson, where you have a Dyson Williams? I'm sorry, you have Doug Jameson in there for 3 more years. You have a full season of John Wagner. This Ty Kurtz and Alex Simmons have another year under their belt going into their sophomore year. This team could be absolutely filthy coming into this season, and they're a team that are going to be a big favorite to be picked to win it all, and if not, be back into the finals. This team is, I don't think we can preference it enough. I was definitely I was not putting enough chips into their basket to start of last year. It might have taken me a bit too long to warm up to them, but I am full in on the Albany Firewolves this year. They just locked in. They're going to be in Albany for a full 6 more years. They just locked in that deal today. They're disgusting, Phil. And I'm not saying I'm jealous of what they have. It's a little bit of envy, because this is what the Buffalo Bandits used to look like, and now the next hot thing is the Albany Firewolves. It's a little envious with this young group coming up that's like reminiscent of the Buffalo Bandits.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Bandits already have it, so it's not something you're overly jealous of. Like, would I take the Albany team, or do I take Dane Smith and Josh Byrne, who just absolutely smashed 100%. Pretty much everything last year in the league? I would take them still, but like you said, this is pretty much the up-and-coming Dane and Josh crew, and it's going to be scary. It's going to be scary. Luckily, it seems like Matt Vince, I mean, as long as he's back, I feel a little bit, I can sleep at night if he comes back and be a little bit safer from a team like this.
Hey, Maddie, just send us a DM. We don't even have to announce it. Just see how my hairline.
Anybody in Matt's camp, just let us know.
My hairline's back here. It used to be like here to start the off season, and each time I had to do the many minutes, it regressed a little bit further. But
every minute was a centimeter
every minute
back.
was a little bit further. So thanks a lot, man, Vince. Your hairline is perfect, and mine is receding. Okay, do the alphabet. A, B, C is for Calgary. Man, Phil. Holy cow.
We're learning so much on this show, by the way.
I am. For the Calgary Roughnecks. Started with a trade of Shane Simpson out the door to Las Vegas. Then Zach Currier and the 14th overall pick went to San Diego. Then Thomas Hogarth went out the door to Halifax. Then Chris Jordan went to Philadelphia. Then you get word that Christian Del Bianco is not going to be returning. He's going to be holding out if he's still in Calgary. I don't know what to do with this team. They acquire Curtis Dixon. It's not somebody that you would acquire for a team that's looking to rebuild. He's 36 years old. It's a very confusing team in a transition that isn't a full transition. And I understand one offseason you can't rebuild an entire team, but this This team that went from me worrying about their offensive output last year, just lost their transition game studs in Zach Currier and Shane Simpson. Just lost their MVP and goaltender of the year from 2022, or 2023, I'm sorry, Christian Del Bianco. They still got Jesse King. They still got Tyler Pace, who still needs to sign a deal, but he's got a qualifying offer. They brought in Matthew Gauthier. They retain and sign back Dan Taylor. But, Tanner Cook, Curtis Dixon, Hayden Dixon, this offense went from a team that I was very, very hesitant on their offense to a team that lost all their transition and lost their goaltender that would feed the transition, and their offense got a little bit weaker as well. So this team is we're in November. We're going to be doing our bold predictions and our picks. This team's going to be at the bottom half of it, and it's very weird for a Calgary Roughnecks type of team to be thinking that way.
Yeah, and again, like you said, for a team like this that's sending everything out to bring in a Curtis Dixon, I don't get it. I know you don't want to just punt an entire season. I mean, it's not fair to their fans, especially, like you said, it's a very well-respected NLL franchise. So you can't just roll over and play dead for the whole season and say we're rebuilding, but that's kind of what Albany did for a couple seasons there, and look at them. They rebuilt. They were at the bottom. They were a laughingstock for a long time. Everyone thought they were a joke, and now they're right up at the top a couple years later. I don't know. This seems strange. I mean, clearly at this point, Calgary is the wannabe Vancouver Warriors. Their whole team just switched teams. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this team. We've talked about them a lot this offseason with what they've been doing and the deals they've been making and the players they've been shipping out. I don't know. I don't know what to do. You lost a lot of talent, a lot of talent, a lot of great players. And yes, like you said, they still have Cook, King, Dixon, Pace. They still have an okay offense, a few decent defensive players like Leclerc, but your goalie's a huge question mark now, and your offense that wasn't good last year is arguably worse, and your transition game is out the door with your goaltender and all the players you let go. I just don't know what this team is right now. And again, to see Curtis Dixon come in, nothing against him by any means. The team went out and got him, but for the team to go out and get him just doesn't seem to make sense for a team that sent all of their talent out the door at the same time. I don't know. It seems like they're going to be a bottom team, and Christian Del Bianco, losing him is gigantic.
Yeah, that's the biggest elephant in the room right now is what happens with Christian Del Bianco. The rumors continue to fly that it's pretty much, and I'm not, this is more speculation. It's more Vancouver or nothing for him because of where he resides. His wedding's coming up. He's running a business, the commute and everything. So to me, I believe it's probably Vancouver or he sits out this season. They franchise tagged him, so the rights remain with him. Are they able to swing a deal? And if they do, what does that look like? Because it has to be a massive deal to ship out a guy who's, 28 years old in the prime of his career, that just won the MVP and the goaltender of the year 2 years ago, was up for goaltender of the year again this year. He's a stud in the net, just won Worlds with Canada, playing unbelievable in net there. If they are able to swing a deal, this is a franchise-altering type of move here, sending Christian Del Bianco out the door, because you just sent all your veteran pieces out the door with Zach Currier and Shane Simpson. It's a team in drastic transition right now, and they brought in some younger guys. Kalen Mander, he sounds like a good guy. Griffin Hall sounds like a potential guy. You brought in Cam McLeod. He could be the next heir apparent to a Christian Del Bianco. He's probably going to get the first shot there. You drafted Braden Maya. You drafted Jake Fallows. So there are pieces here, but it's a team that's going to struggle a lot this season, and they're going to be having to work things out. And this is going to be an offense that, once again, is going to be struggling to put the ball in the back of the net. And now you don't have a Christian Del Bianco in the net to keep these low-scoring games. So this could be a team that has to find ways to win in different ways than in previous seasons. And it's definitely a team that's going to be very interesting to track because of some of these younger pieces that they're bringing in and some of the older pieces here. Curtis Dixon, 1 year. Is he a trade piece to move along? Eli Salama, one of the few names on the back end. He's got 1 year left. So it's definitely a team, and they only have Logan Shush out there as a UFA. So it's not like there's a bunch of guys that you can still bring back to this team. It'll be very interesting to see what this team looks like in February and March, and if they're able to prove me wrong when they weren't able to prove me wrong in the goal scoring department last year.
Completely agree.
So we continue the alphabet, and what follows Calgary is Colorado. They stunk last year. There's no ifs and or ways about it. They had a lot of injuries. It seemed like the back-to-back finals finally caught up to them. They have not caught up to the Buffalo Bandits yet, but definitely caught up to the Colorado Mammoth. They made a lot of moves. This offense is legit, Phil. That's all I'm really going to say. They were able to retain and bring back Connor Kelly, who had an unbelievable season, to a 3-year deal. Tyson Gibson, 1-year deal. Ryan Lee, hopefully he's healthy because the league is better when Ryan Lee is healthy. 3-year deal. They still got the likes of Zed Williams. They still got the likes of Eli McLaughlin. They still have the likes of Connor Robinson. But guess what they also added in the dispersal draft? A Will Malcolm. This team is going to be absolutely filthy on offense if they're able to stay healthy and be healthy. You got Tyson Gibson, Connor Kelly, Ryan Lee, and Zed Williams on the right-hand side. You got Will Malcolm, Eli McLaughlin, and Connor Robinson on the left side. That is some of the best collection of forwards in the entire league, and they're not even adding in the younger pieces that they drafted as well. So it's definitely going to be a team that, if you're expecting a Colorado Mammoth that you saw last year, I don't expect that. As long as you're getting the Dylan Ward of prior seasons and not last year type of Dylan Ward, I think this team can bounce back from the bottom cellar of where they were back to a title contending team, as long as the defense looks right. And with Robert Hope still back there, Warren Jeffrey, Tim Edwards, Brett Craig, Owen Down another year back there, this team has all the makings to be another title contending team.
Yeah, I am still upset that they got Will Malcolm.
It's stupid. I hate it.
Yeah, it's as
what a year to be bad.
Right, as Bandits fans that we are at heart, knowing that we're obviously not very big Colorado fans, and to see them just gifted one of the best players in the league is pretty frustrating. I think a lot of this team has to do with Ryan Lee and his health. I mean, I'm not going to say the entire season by any means hinges on it. They've done well without him, but he is a game-changing player if he's healthy. He's missed 2 years in a row now, and that's the other big thing with 2 pretty significant injuries. What does he have left? And this is not a shot at his talent, but last time he came back from injury, he did seem like he was just a step slower. He didn't seem like quite the Ryan Lee of previous years, but still, he's an incredible talent. He will be really, really good. And like you just said, the balance of their offense on the right side and the left side, they are not heavy weighted toward either side, especially now that they have Will Malcolm. He pretty much balances out that left and the right. The biggest thing to me is Dylan Ward. I mean, what is he anymore? I mean, the last 4 seasons now, he has gone downhill, and I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. They signed a massive contract for him. The defense in front of him wasn't amazing by any means, but still, he's gotten worse 4 straight years. His goals against in 2020 was 9.62. Then it went to 10, 22, 11, 19, 12, 32 last year. His save percentage went from 81.6, which is amazing, to 80.4, still really good, 78, and then 75.7. So the last 4 years, he has been steadily declining. Can he rebound? Can this team rebound and the defense rebound in front of him? I think the offense will be there for sure. They look on paper incredible. So to me, a lot of this hinges on what Dylan Ward is now at this point in his career. Can he get back to 2020 Dylan Ward that had a under 10 goals against and an 81.6 save percentage, which would be, I mean, if he can even reclaim some of that, if he can become just back to what he used to be, I think this team could be a big playoff push, title contending team like they were a few years ago. But if he's still struggling like he did last year, I think this team will only go as far as the offense and Dylan Ward can kind of allow them to go. The defense is pretty solid. They do have some big players back there on defense, so not mentioning them much, but they do have a pretty solid defense. But I do think a lot of this hinges on Ward. I think their offense is going to be there. Just what can he end up being this season?
Yeah, one of the players that's a bigger name still out there, there's still a few big name UFAs still out there, is Joey Capito. And does he return back to Colorado, the only place he's ever played? I think you hit the nail on the head. It comes down to Dylan Ward, and if he can rebound from the struggles that he had last year. I mean, early to start the season, he was really, really struggling. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the amount of time he's played on the field between, PLL and the championships and the finalist appearances that he had. That's a lot of wear and tear on a body, especially for a goaltender position. So if he's able to rebound to even, close to what he was in 2020 or 2021, or I guess, sorry, they didn't have a season in 2021, 2022. If he's even close to what we saw in the NLL finals the first time these two teams matched up, you're going to get a title contending team. It really does come down to Dylan Ward and likely the health of the forward groups and Ryan Lee. But, like I mentioned, if this team is fully healthy, you get a Connor Kelly, a Ryan Lee, and a Will Malcolm all playing together. It's filthy to add with the Zed Williams and the Connor Robinsons and the Eli McLaughlin. I'm sure Eli McLaughlin's, hoping and praying that these guys stay healthy, so not all the load is on his shoulders. But this team could be absolutely star-studded. The only other question I got, rank these three teams. You got Albany, Colorado, and Calgary. What's the order 1 to 3?
Sadly, it's pretty easy with this group of three. Albany, Colorado, and Calgary.
That is also how I have it. I just if Dylan Ward bounces back, I think Albany and Colorado they're going to give headaches around the league because of their offensive potential and the goaltenders that are behind them, along with the defense that they got going on. But Phil, that concludes the first offseason segment and review of the NLL teams. Next week we got 4 teams on the docket because why not? That'll be we got rid of the bold predictions for the Buffalo Sabres, which took up a bit of time, but I figured next week with 2 Sabres games, Bills game, we can kind of dive into the 4. But is there anything else you would like to add to this episode before we shut it down for another week and get further and further into off-season and closer to 2 shows a week?
We are still hoping that Tim Edwards is removed from Colorado and brought to the Bandits. We refuse to give up hope on such things.
Never say die. What is it, the Goonies? Never say die? That's the way. That's our mantra over here. Never say Tim Edwards can't come to Buffalo. But yeah, like we mentioned, I think we can kind of tease it. Our 2 shows a week will be coming shortly. We're still in off-season mode. We're still enjoying some time with our loved ones and our families and doing a lot of stuff like moving. But yeah, we got some stuff planned. I got some stuff in the works for this coming Buffalo Bandits season. We're going to make it bigger and better than we have in the last 3 seasons. This will be our 4th season entering this, covering the Buffalo Bandits. So we're making it bigger and better because more and more people continue to listen and reach out. And like we keep saying, as long as people are listening, we're going to keep making it bigger and better and as good as possible. But that will conclude this episode. On our next episode, we'll talk Bills versus Texans. We got 2 Sabres games that we'll be able to talk about because they're overseas. Again, Friday, 1 o'clock, use some sick time at work. And then we'll break down the next 4 teams. So bring out your 26 letters of the alphabet and figure out which 4 teams will be on the next show. But that will conclude this episode, and we will wrap it up here. So thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Go. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can check out our store on our link tree, on our socials, or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, and leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.